Greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Want to remind everybody, hit that like, share, and subscribe. There is a PayPal link down there for anybody that wants to share some love. Always appreciated. And, of course, the StreamYard link is down there for anybody that wants to join the panel. And we do have Russ with us again tonight. How you doing tonight, brother?
Doing well. Hope everybody's doing well as well. Good to see you again, as always.
Yeah, we're doing good here. Same old, same old. Nothing exciting. Still going over various things that I think are obvious to myself and should be obvious to others, but insanely enough, it's not. And this is the aspect of backing the blue until it happens to you. We seem to have a lot of people that are supporting what the police do because they don't realize the systemic abuse of power and authority that actually goes on, because they don't see it firsthand. It's that thing that, well, they see somebody getting arrested a couple blocks down the street, but they've got too many other things going on in their glorious life that they got to go back and watch it on a boob tube of somebody else's comedic, mysterious, murderous, adventurous lives, all in fiction, and without taking a look at the observable reality. And it's sad because we see it happening every day, but we don't put those people that we see it happening to in a perspective of being, one of us. It's always, well, I'm glad it's not me in the singular element. Whereas if we put ourselves in other people's shoes and we see that man somehow related to us as our father, our son, our grandson, our grandfather, our mother, our daughter, our sister, our brother, and we don't have that empathy because we don't have that connection. And I don't understand that, because I think that's supposed to be an inherent connection that we should be observing. But yet at the same time, I certainly see various things that are very problematic in the development of such a spiritual intuition and instinct. And that is that public education system, the indoctrination into this false patriarch, where somebody does seemingly and relevantly have some sort of authority over us when that's not true. We tend to believe this because we don't understand our own authority, and nobody ever teaches us that authority. So tonight we're looking at the escalation without cause as it relates to police integrity. Is that a real issue? Should we be seeing that integrity for what it is by looking at these instances of escalation without cause? That's the problem, because people don't see the cause. They just see the
integrity. That integrity you speak of, I look at that as the spirit. So,
right.
And it doesn't look too good for a lot of fellas.
Right. The way they behave without that spiritual concept. And that's what I'm talking about, is the cause in putting your hands on another man in any fashion. In my instincts and intuition in this modern society, as it relates to everybody's safety and all these protections and rights and enforcements and everything, it's really about the base principle of doing unto others as you would have them do unto you. And so we look at
one as an injustice to all.
Well, if you look at Nietzsche talks about being a beast to kill a beast. And what he's actually talking about there is that the fact that these people that get involved in these kinds of employment positions where they have this authority, particularly an enforcement authority, such as these policy enforcers, they get embedded into this society where there are a lot of criminals. and a lot of murderers, a lot of rapists, a lot of things like that. And it kind of embeds itself into them. And he talks about if you look into the abyss, sooner or later, the abyss is going to look into you. And that's what he's portraying. If you end up being a part of this abysmal system in that capacity, you have to be very aware of how it can affect that spirituality, because it will infect you if you're not. And that's this thing about forgive them for they know not what they do, you know. And it's sad to say, but it's time to stop with this extreme forgive them for they know not what they do, and start principling things on the education and knowledge, because that's what's lacking. And the knowledge that's lacking is that spiritual knowledge that I'm talking about, not the public education and the informational knowledge. It's that base principle knowledge through instincts and intuition. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Because if you go getting violent with another man, they could very well get violent with you.
If they were paid on those principles, there would be a lot of broke asses out there.
Right. And sooner or later, getting involved in other men putting their hands, or other people getting violent with you, and you having to in turn get violent with them, sooner or later it turns out to you getting violent with them, despite them not even being violent or anything. You end up being the perpetrator. You end up being the violent one. You end up being the one that escalates. And that's what I see. So let's take a look. Our first one here. Yep. And our first one goes here to how the people do stand up when it comes down to the root, the grassroots of things. And this first video has to do with de-escalation first, the polar opposite of escalation. Instead of escalating all of this patriotism and everything, they're going to de-escalate it and actually try to cut it out. So watch what happens. Sporting event. Let's do this first. This is replace the Constitution.
What we as Muslims want to implement here in the United States, we believe the Constitution should be replaced by the Quran.
The first move that I will do, I will abolish the Constitution, and I will establish the only logical and rational Constitution, which is the Quran.
People are not coming here to acclimate to our way of life and be a part of our society. They are coming here to take our way of life away and force their way of life onto us.
And this is a generalization which we can't do. There are some that come to embed themselves into this cultural society by maintaining their own culture, but still having confidence and respect and reverence for the other cultures as a melting pot nation itself. Okay, so this is a generalization. This is one of the things I do see this man do quite often, as well as many other people. So we have to put it in its context that these people did say that, but this is not the general view of most of them. I don't think. If it comes out to be that, then so be it. And we, I agree here at this point that we shouldn't allow those kinds of people to come in with that intent. The intent of the immigration laws is not to allow a large populace of people to come in and then assert their cultural laws and customs, but rather for them to come and assimilate into a good standard set of laws and policies and things like that that do allow for people to get along by coming together in those cultural diversities and seeing them for what they are. They're not racist. Their origins. That's it. So let's take a finish up here.
These people are our direct enemies, and they should not be allowed to live on American soil. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments.
And that's to say that, again, without forgetting the roots of this Christian society, the King James Version of the Bible in Psalms 121:8 says, "The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and even forevermore." And that's because in Leviticus 25, verse 25 or 23, it says, the land shall not be sold forever, for it is mine, and ye are strangers and sojourners with me. And so in this mighty Christian nation that we pose, that is a base principle of the foundational laws of immigration, is that if you come into this God-fearing country, then you too have a semblance of a God-fearing Abrahamic religion. And in that God-fearing Abrahamic religion, if you bring in the Quran, then you're destroying that First Amendment freedom of a religion. And the very principle, again, of that First Amendment in its freedom of religion, freedom of association, is that you cannot spread that word of Christianity and your mighty God without other people's right to know. So you have to allow them to come in and be able to take upon this Christian culture. It's not a political culture. It's not a corporate commercial culture. It is a culture.
I would venture to say that, well, shit, I just lost my train of thought when thinking about culture.
Well, let's take a look at this next video, and if you get it, get it. But this is the National Guard patrolling DC in crime crackdown effort. Okay, and like I mentioned in the first video, that's a generalization. And in a generalization, you would go to like statistics and say, well, actually, statistically, there's only 1% of the Muslims that are moving to this country that believe that. Okay, so again, it's a matter of watching stats and making sure that that record has integrity, so that you can follow the policy. And if it doesn't, then what is the police integrity? What is the integrity of the police if they don't have a true foundational statistical element that they can follow? So in here we have DC paid protester requests surged since last year, Crowd Company says. So don't you think that will change some of the statistics? So let's take a look.
I know what I was going to say real quick before you fire it up. Most people look at that job as just that, as a job, but I would venture to say before that job, there was an obligation and a duty. And that duty and obligation was in good faith in creating those jobs to fulfill that prophecy.
Yep. So let me see here. DC paid protester requests surged since last year, Crowd Company says. And this is a Crowd Company that's saying this. Okay. So these people know there are crowd companies, and they didn't just pop up. They've been around for a long time. Okay. So now we have a president, and we have a commercial system, a crowd company being hired commercially for political reasons. And we're going to watch.
Janine Pirro doubled down, maybe even tripled down on the idea of getting control over juvenile criminals in particular.
We're also looking to lower the age of criminals. What's happening is, even if you shoot someone with a gun, you go to family court where the purpose is rehabilitation. You get to go to an ice cream social, and you get to go to yoga classes. That's nonsense. All of these statutes that they've passed don't allow me to incarcerate. They allow the removal or the erasure of convictions. How fair is that to a parent who wants to find out whether or not a nanny is someone who's been convicted of a prior assault? How fair is that to an employer who doesn't get to understand or know who he's hiring? Everything about the DC Council and the laws that they've passed are liberal, they're defense leaning, and they're not in favor of the citizens of DC.
Republican Congressman Byron Donalds of the great state of Florida, member of the House Oversight Committee, also a candidate for Florida governor. Great to see you today. Look, this is making huge news in part because the left is so angry over this. And Janine Pirro there, the U.S. Attorney for D.C., laying out why this is necessary and how young some of the perpetrators are. Your take.
My take is the U.S. attorney is absolutely correct. D.C. has a history of being substantially weak on crime. That's why the District of Columbia continues to be unsafe. Last Congress, I filed legislation. We just refiled it again that would actually put D.C. in line with every other jurisdiction in America. What I mean by that is, in the District of Columbia, if you're 22 years old and you commit a crime, they can try you as a juvenile. No other part of America does that, but they do that in D.C. That's the kind of stuff that needs to change. With respect to what President Trump has done, it is his responsibility to take the safety and security of the nation's capital.
So you see, in effect, by changing the policy, what happens is there's going to be a change in the statistics. This is the same thing that happened when they closed down all the asylums back in the day, and prison populations rose because they had to replace those people in different institutions. Here, they're going to do a increase in that population again by introducing legislation that will allow younger criminals, younger age for criminalized enforcements rather than rehabilitatory juvenile enforcements. So again, just a play game with statistics. And remember, folks, in the term statistic, I see statist. I see statistic. Think about it, folks, and understand what you're doing when you give all these data elements to these policy enforcers and authority figures and official people across the counter when you're filling out applications and registrations and stuff. You really need to learn the language.
Seriously, and I'm glad to see that he's dispatched National Guard to keep the streets of DC safe for everyone.
Look, I want to dig in a little bit deeper on this point. A crowd rental company says it's seen a massive surge in requests. The CEO has told Fox News DC and the inquiries just from that district are up roughly 400% compared to the same period of time in 2024. Most of the attendees are being paid or are there because it's their job to protest. That doesn't mean
most of them. And I'm going to tell you that even though they're not getting paid in a lot of these drama panels, you see that a majority of the audience is there because of the drama. That's all they want is the drama. So these people are getting paid to hype up the drama. And that's the only thing they're there for, is to hype up the drama. It's just so mirrored. It's pathetic.
they don't support the cause, but it does mean that these crowds are not as organic as they appear to be.
They don't support the cause because they don't have any other cause but the drama. That's all they're there for. They're not there to find any kind of information that will help them in their own lives. They're not to look. They're not there so they can look at somebody else's dramatic life on this boob tube, this screen in front of them, and make fun of them or use ad hominem character attacks or agree with them, for heaven's sake, in a safe space or anything. They're there nothing but the drama. They don't have any real intent of knowledge for experience to gain wisdom so that they can pass it along. They want to remain embedded in that, all that slop. And the children that they bring up will remain in that same slop. Because that's truly what it is, folks. This is slop for a government.
On TV. Look at this. All right, so recent protests include this one on Monday during President Trump's crime crackdown announcement. The singing, some of it rather cringy and had his name in it, you know. I want to make it clear. We don't know if these people specifically were paid or not, but that is certainly happening in many places around this issue. And against this president, it has tended to be the norm. Congressman.
We know that there's paid AstroTurf from the radical left. They do this all the time with a lot of their phony protests. When you talk to somebody.
Say what? Say what, Russ?
Oh, I thought it was lagging. Maybe it's me lagging.
Yeah, it's you.
People on the ground, they don't live in the jurisdictions. They tell you they're being paid. They're bussed in, and then when the issue's over, they leave. This is part of the AstroTurf of the Democratic left. We're far too familiar. At the end of the day, what is most important is that the security of Washington, D.C. is paramount. And if you're a Washingtonian living in Washington, D.C., you know that the streets are not safe. Members of Congress, Angie Craig, Henry Cuellar was held up at gunpoint and carjacked in Washington, D.C. If it happens to members of Congress, it happens to regular citizens as well. D.C. City's council has not prioritized safety and security. They have prioritized woke criminal justice reform policies that simply do not work, never have worked. And that's why President Trump is doing the right thing. He's stepping up and making sure that the federal seat, that is the Washington, D.C., that's what it is, the federal enclave, that the federal enclave is safe for all Americans.
You know, you pointed out, and the history of D.C. in particular, And I have to say this, I said this yesterday when we saw again Muriel Bowser, the mayor, Muriel Bowser, standing up there with Pat Smith, who is the chief of police of MPD, Metro Police. And they were talking about having just met with the AG Pam Bondi and how they want to work with, the federal government and all of this. Yeah, this is politics too. I mean, they had an opportunity to ask for help. They had an opportunity to make some change and to attack this in a different way. And it was by choice that they.
Yes, it's politics. It's politics to, again, enlarge the government because the crime is raising, because they change policies to help the crime rates rise. It's a manipulation. It's a statistical manipulation through their policies and legislations. That's all it is. It's for-profit prisons and everything else. It's for-profit identifications through the states. It's for-profit driver's license. It's for-profit birth registrations. It's for-profit Social Security. It's all for profit.
So how much do you trust that the cooperation is going to be sustainable from the left?
To be honest, I don't trust that they're going to want to actually cooperate with President Trump, which is why we have to continue to make light of this issue and make sure it's aware for everybody. This is similar to what happened at George Washington University when Muriel Bowser would not send in the Metropolitan Police Department to arrest the people trespassing on that university's campus until the oversight committee, the committee I sit on, subpoenaed her testimony in Congress. And the second we did that, all of a sudden, MPD was allowed to make the arrest. We have to make sure that we shine light on this. We have to keep it a focus of not just the people in Washington, but the American people. And that is the true way that you have accountability in this matter.
Look, I want to.
And that's the end of that one. It's just got a few seconds left on another issue. But to that point, what's happening in D.C. is that D.C. has no statehood. Okay? When it comes to Los Angeles, the mayor has no say in National Guard. That is a state power. Okay? But in that, the federal can't just come in and federalize things without the consent of that state governor. And there is the issue in Los Angeles in dispersing National Guard to Los Angeles, is that he doesn't have the power, absent the consent of the state governor, to do so. Okay? DC, however, not having statehood, is in fact a federal territory itself and needs no other state consent other than the Constitution, which allowed the seceding of the states to grant that federal jurisdiction. United States is located in Washington, D.C. Therefore, that is a federal United States territory. There are federal territories in the states, specifically, again, upon consent of the governor in delegating those such territories. Post offices, in alignment with the first, or the Constitution of the United States, Article 1, Section 10. Postal roads, armaments, that's your police office, police enforcement buildings, your safety buildings, all those kinds of things. Courthouses, federal courthouses, state courthouses and county courthouses, no. Federal courthouses in the states. So let's take a look at the next one. As it relates to the deployment of 800 National Guards to Washington, D.C.
Crime emergency.
Get your freaking act together, Washington, D.C.
It may temporarily, just because people are going to kind of stay away from things.
I need to get him up out of here. I'm talking about Trump.
So let's go see what people have to say.
I don't feel as safe now as I did before this latest move by President Trump.
In the areas that I'm in, I'm only visiting, yes, I felt very safe.
In this part of the city, yes. And near the National Mall, yeah, it feels safe. You know, there are certain areas, you know, in DC where I feel less safe, you know, with gentrification and stuff. It looks like it's going, you know, in the right direction.
With the National Guard here, yes, we do.
I feel safe to a point, to a certain extent. I don't feel safe from the police.
I think it's a terrible move. I think it sends a terrible message. I think that it is showing that we are teetering on the brink of fascism if we're not already there. And I think it is meant to distract against more important things, like this mess about being a pedophile, if we're not already there. And I think it is meant to distract against more important things, like this mess about being a pedophile. And I think it is meant to distract against more important things, like this mess about being a pedophile. This is a distraction to get away from that.
And the point here is, yeah, it is a big issue. If the president is involved, it goes to his integrity. If the president has no integrity because he's found to be a pedophile, then how can the rest of the system have integrity? Who is standing up for those children? Who is standing up for the next generation, promising that they too can be a president? How ironic.
Like deporting people without due process, like squashing the free speech. I think that these moves like this, where he's going to just kick the homeless people out and jail them or lock them up.
Kick the homeless people out or jail them and lock them up. Psalms 121, I'll remind you, again, all you Christians out there. Psalms 121, verse 8. The Lord shall preserve my going out and my coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. Leviticus 25, verse 23. The land shall not be sold forever, for it is mine, and ye are strangers and sojourners with me. And if that's what you Christians believe, then I interpret that to mean that I could not be homeless anywhere I go, because the land is his. And I live in this world, but am not of this world. That's for all you Christians out there, so sternly believing that your mighty God is so good while you devastate his word through your immigration and racism and all this bullshit hatred and distraction and separation, segregation, associations. Aren't we all supposedly one in Christ? All children of God if we believe in Christ? Do you know Christ as it relates to the term Christ, Christed? Have you been through baptisms? What baptisms? What kind of baptisms? Baptism of fire, baptism by water, or baptism in spirit? In, by, and of. Which one? Do you even understand those concepts as you call yourself a Christian? Or do you just continue to listen to the man in the pulpit, interpret it his way, and never look any deeper, believing once again in someone that you should not believe in?
No. All right, so listen.
Today I'm here in Washington, D.C., where
going to just kick the homeless people out and jail them or lock them up, and just flooding the streets with National Guard. It's a distraction. It's not needed. Crime here has been going down. We have crime issues. The local police are handling it as best they can. Homeless people out and flooding the streets with National Guard. It's a distraction. It's not needed. Crime here has been going down. We have crime issues. The local police are handling it as best streets with National Guard. It's a distraction. It's not needed. Crime here has been going down. We have crime issues. The local police are handling it as best they can. We need to make some changes, but nothing more than you.
We need to make some changes. What kind of changes? Well, we need to change the policy. That's the go-to. It's never changed the accountability. It's never changed the integrity of what's truly happening. It's go by what you believe by those statistics in believing that the crime rate is falling down without knowing yourself. Keep believing. Don't do your research. Don't do your research and find out how the stats change over time and correlate them with how things change over time. Again, I remind you, the prison stats went way up after they closed down the asylums. In that, they said that the crime rate went up. No, the crime rate did not go up. The statistics show that because you changed something. What did you change? You changed policies that got rid of the asylums. In that, there were other policies that were referred to for the same kind of people to put them in an institution so they wouldn't be wandering the streets and taking up public services otherwise.
Usual.
Especially when you hear on the cable news, some of them saying that this is attacking black and brown cities or people.
It was a means of being able to profit over their institutionalization instead of being at a public expense.
In those communities, there's a lot of crime, and there's a lot of really good people in those communities. They need to be protected just as much as any other community. And if there's more crime in those communities and the local leadership is not
Need to be protected because they can't protect themselves. That's the main issue. People don't want to stand up and protect themselves because they think it's somebody else's job to. Therefore, they never learn how to and depend on it.
not taking care of those communities, then my president, who took an oath to protect all Americans, is saying, wait a second, I'm not just going to be like, oh, well, that's the way it is. It's not the way it is. The people in these communities and the crime that has stretched out of these communities, we deserve to walk on safe streets. We deserve to not worried about being carjacked and beat up because we were helping somebody. And if the local leadership is not going to take care of it, then that's why we have a president.
If the local leadership is not going to take care of it, then that's why we have a president. And who takes care of the president? Huh? Who voted that president in? Who voted that mayor in? Likely you. And that is just you delegating your responsibility to somebody else and becoming dependent upon it without knowing it, because you just simply believe that they can do a better job of protecting you when they don't even know you. Sad stuff. I will never believe that somebody else can provide and protect better for me than myself. The next one we got is DC crime victim families blast low stats. We're seeing the violence. So let's take a look at this one.
Working to clean up the Capitol on behalf of the president's orders. Also, as they ramp up their efforts, we're reminded of the painful reality for the victims and families who have been impacted by violent crime in our nation's capital.
My brother is not a number. All these people are not numbers. They are humans.
It's frankly due to the grace of God that the 4 steps he did get in didn't kill me. While I was sitting in the hospital recovering, I found out my attacker had just been released from prison the day prior.
I go to those crime scenes. I sit with those families who the medical examiners is picking their bodies up off the ground. I deal with this. It is a problem. I deal with the fact of me having a paralyzed son, the mental anguish that he goes through.
I looked at Eric's ashes and I said, Eric, you haven't died in vain. Things will change so other people are safe when they go visit DC or work in DC. And that's my goal, to make people safe when they go visit DC or work in DC. When they go visit DC or work, so other people are safe when they go visit DC or work in DC. And that's my goal, to make people safe. So other people are safe when they go visit DC or work in DC. And that's my goal, to make people safe.
To make America great again. No, make people great again. Okay, same concept here. Are you going to be protected or are you going to protect? Are you going to be safe? Are you going to make people safe? See, it's the people that are dangerous, not the gun. It's the people that are dangerous, not the gun. Therefore, this woman, whether she knows it or not, actually said it correctly. Making people safe. How do you make yourself safe? My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Therefore, you make yourself safe by gaining the knowledge.
Griff Jenkins has more for us in Washington. Hi, Griff.
Hey, Dana, good morning. And while the stats show this 30-year low in violent crime here in D.C., the reality on the streets tells a very different story. And for many victims of crime, this is personal. Asia Tamimi lost her husband 4 years ago, and her sons have been victims of gun violence.
My husband first. It was the 1st of January of 2021. He was trying to help an elderly man, and he was stabbed to death. My son, somebody came up behind him and shot him 8 times, twice in the head, 6 times in the body, and he's a paraplegic now. So, believe me, gun violence is personal for me.
And you hear from city leaders and others that crime is actually down. Are you seeing that?
No, I'm not seeing it. We're seeing carjackings.
And again, this lady, a better way of saying this is the violence perpetrated by these people. Instead, the way she says it, it again implies that it's the gun that's violent. No, the gun sits there quietly until somebody pulls the trigger. It's the man that's violent. It's the man that's dangerous, not the gun.
The violence in the communities. So we were advocating then for the National Guard to come out, but they said there was no need. But think about how many lives could have been saved just having them on the scene.
And Asia says still to this day, she's not heard from one detective about those crimes committed against her family. Now, for Tempe Satcher, another D.C. resident, her son BJ was gunned down in a random drive-by shooting on the way to work 2 years ago, and she does not feel the crime has calmed down.
Just today, a young lady was shot over on 15th Street in Northeast DC. Does that seem like crime gone down with all the things that are going on with our president, sending the...
Does that seem like the crime going down? So you're relegating that because it just happened the other day, that crime rate is going up, or that crime is just still happening? Because I would urge everybody to comprehend that crime will happen throughout eternity. It's how close you put yourself to it, in what perspective is what matters. Like I said, you can be one of the slaves that sits down on that couch and watches the boob tube of somebody else's dramatic life because yours is so great, while eating the processed foods and drinking the poison drinks until they come for you. Or you can be proactive and preventive of being destroyed when they come for you by gaining the knowledge of how to beat them at that sick, insane game of twisting words and views and telling stories for their popularity, their honor, for their promotion, for their quota. Learn how to write your own story by picking up that pen of the word of truth, bearing it as a sword.
National Guard's out. I don't have a problem with that personally, because if MPD can't do it and they need help, then I'm glad they're able to get the help.
And Mayor Bowser says her police force has 3,100 officers. She wants to get it up to 3,800. DC's police chief says, in the meantime...
What?
Officers, she wants to get it up to 3,800. 100 officers, she wants to get it as 3,100 officers. She wants to get it up to 3,800. DC's force has 3,100 officers. She wants to get it up to 3,800. DC's police...
3,100 to 3,800. That's 70 or 700 more. And 731. Oh my God, that's like, what? Somebody figure that out real quick. 700 of 31. That is, that goes into their four and a half times. Wow. Amazing shit.
Police chief says, in the meantime, she's welcoming federal assistance.
This is a great opportunity for us to build upon continuing to drive down crime with our federal law enforcement partners. What we're going to do is build upon that and working collaboratively with our U.S. Marshals, our DEA, and all of the other federal partners here to ensure that we're placing resources around our city in those areas where we've seen an impact that's increasing crime.
One important point, Dana, that both
placing resources, and that's those other 700 bodies. The body is the resource. Okay, they're going to resource the bodies so they can resource the other bodies that they don't want there.
Thasia and Tempe stressed to me in the solution to solving youth crime, it begins in the home with parents and mentors.
And as it showed earlier, they don't care what color your skin is, and they don't care what age you are. They'll just change the policies to fit you in there.
Dana?
Griff Jenkins, thank you for bringing us their stories. Hey, everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my...
They'll just fit you in the statistics as long as you keep being that bitch-ass slave, saying, yeah, I'm that, I'm this, I'm that, in this popularity contest. So, in this popularity contest and how the law applies to thee but not to me, let's take a look at the DOJ employee who threw a sandwich at a law enforcement officer. You know, interesting shit.
We are following new details about the man arrested for reportedly throwing a sandwich at law enforcement in Northwest D.C. Less than an hour ago, attorney...
Look at how DOJ and the feminization of mankind, as it goes. We've got this nice man in this real light beige colored shorts and peak polo. You can see the collar on and everything. That's some kind of polo. Working for the DOJ, indicative of DEI. That's just my opinion, though, through my own observations. Maybe it's not so obvious to everybody else, so I just wanted to point it out.
General Pam Bondi confirmed he was an employee of the
Yeah, look, let's see if we can see his shoes.
Department of Justice, and that she fired him. Authorities say Sean Dunn is now charged with assault on a police officer.
Yeah, it looks like he's got some kind of low-cut sneakers or loafers.
The viral video of this incident now has
No
hundreds of
socks.
thousands of views.
Hundreds of thousands of views. DOJ throws a sandwich at a police officer because he's in his feelers. Imagine that. Here's one from Osman Gold Clips. I got to give this guy kudos. He points out some interesting things and is brave enough to talk about the pedophiles with a wood chipper going in the background. Awesome shit. You should go check him out. Osman Gold Clips. Let's take a look here. Oops, what happened here? What happened? I lost my screen. Share screen. Are we for fucking real? Are we for fucking real now? Are we for fucking real now? Let's check it out.
These behaviors may not be criminal offenses in themselves, but they need to be addressed. Wait, what?
These women aren't friends out for a run. They're actually undercover police officers taking to the streets in Surrey as part of a new operation trying to stop people catcalling and harassing female runners.
Trying to stop people catcalling and harassing female runners. So we have to remember the definition of harassing when we think about this first. Because most of these kinds of things are incidental things, unless you happen to be running across the same path every day and it's the exact same people and it does nothing but escalate. That might be a form of harassment. But again, you know, just catcalling and whistling out, I don't see how that's harmful or threatful, you know. So again, if you want to get in your feelers, remember where your feelers are limited at, and understand again how this is looking like one of those instances where they might just change the policy and include younger people, where though it's not against the law now, it needs to be addressed so that they might be able to write a policy about it to restrict it and make it unlawful or make it illegal. You see where I'm going? See, the law isn't based on your feelers, you emotional bitch-ass slaves. And again, I remind you, I too was a fucking fool. I too was the idiot that went along to get along. I too was a bitch ass slave. But there comes a time, if your eyes open up, you can't turn back. Your own integrity is at hand.
We get honked at, the staring, the hanging out of the window just to look at us, and it's so prevalent.
And police teams are ready to intervene the moment the officers are beeped at, followed, or shouted at, pulling people over.
Those kind of behaviours may not be criminal offences in themselves, but they still need to be addressed.
Let me guess.
Offences in themselves, but they criminal offences in themselves, but not be criminal offences. Those kind of behaviours may not be criminal offences in themselves, but they still need to be addressed.
Let me guess. You're not doing this in the migrant areas, right? You have illegal migrant rape gangs in your country that are going around and grooming and raping underage girls, and you've got your fucking female officers running around the highway in order to catch people that might commit a crime that is 1/1,000,000th the severity of what these other people are doing. Get the fuck out of here. Really, it's like if you're arresting people for honking their horn, you're telling me that there's nothing else? Like, can't you have them do something?
I don't know what the thing is here, but I don't know why it changed there. My apologies if you guys have not heard this or seen this. Let me turn it back on.
Isn't there something that they can do that actually matters? Where's the priority list? Where's what matters? Now, I don't understand that at all.
Yeah, I don't understand any of this. See, I don't understand how people let their feelers determine what the law should be. And that's what the law should be, whereas the law already is. It's already in your heart to do to another man what you would have them do unto you. It's already there, and it really is that simple. But the problem is everybody wants to think that they have other various responsibilities that they can just shut off and let another man do. When you do that, what you're doing is you're shedding off your own spiritual ability to stand in yourself. And you're actually giving some kind of authority over to another man to tell you what you can and cannot do. And here is one of the most insane things, because it's not just these policy enforcers. It is a commercial venue out there that's being politicized. And through that commercial venue, we also see the same tactics and stuff so that they don't have to stand to integrity. And again, this is why questioning the president and the Epstein files and his own integrity is so imperative, because he is in fact running a corporate entity that allows these kinds of things from other corporate entities without anybody stepping up. And it seems like, how can this go through so many people to be put in place and not one of them steps up and says, hey, there's something morally wrong here?
Schlep caught 6 child that are now facing felony cases for what they were trying to do to kids on the game Roblox. You would think that a game that they're trying to sell to our children would be hella stoked that somebody got perverts off of their game and off of the streets, but no, they actually banned Schlep for doing this.
Roblox has responded after sending me a cease and desist letter for catching predators on their platform.
Notice how young this man looks. Okay, so I can only imagine he's been in the gaming world for a while, and that he already had some kind of experience with somebody trying to play him. So kudos to this young man for reaching out in this manner. No matter how it came about, he's doing a diligent job of saying, hey, there's something morally wrong here.
Not only did Roblox send him a cease and desist letter saying that he can't catch on their game anymore and that he's permanently banned, but they also went and changed their terms of service to include a no vigilantes clause to make sure that nobody else can do this.
So we need to do something about all of this. So let's go change policies. Do you see what's going on, folks.
In my opinion, this sends a really clear message as to who Roblox actually supports. And this has gotten so bad that even a congressman, Ro Khanna, has now stepped in and gotten involved because he says that we need to force them to stop being so negligent when it comes to child safety. Ro Khanna has a petition that you can sign. Change.org also has a petition that you can sign. But since Roblox has tied Schlepp's hands legally and he can no longer go on there and do predator catches, it sure would be a shame if we all went on there and started picking up his work where he left off like some sort of wood chipper tribe.
And yet the one concept I don't see is that if you just spread the word and make sure this one thing gets out there to everybody that's using Roblox. Hey, they allow child predators to predate amongst Roblox. Go read their policy, see the recent changes, and understand why. And you too would not subscribe. You would put the motherfuckers out of business. But again, this is a sad reality, and the real issue is that most of the population thrives on drama, first and foremost. And because of that, they don't have the foresight to see how that drama can affect them, because they're willing to do the same thing in the same concept of backing the blue until it happens to you. They're going to ignore it because it hasn't happened yet. Oh, that won't happen. Not to me. Next one, we got a tyrant cop. Again, the abuse of power and authority that they think they have, and understand that they think they have that simply because they can escalate beyond any cause. And in this one, you'll see that context as it happens and plays out, because he pulls this man over and never gives him a reason. Never gives him a reason, just starts barking orders. Kind of like the one we saw earlier, or yesterday.
This guy was driving perfectly legal. No speeding or laws broken. However, this cop pulled him over anyway, and the unlawful demands began. But when the guy dared to want his rights respected, the cop literally blew up.
You never told me. Why did you pull me over, sir?
Well, you won't allow me to talk to you, okay?
Why did you pull me over, sir?
Hold on.
Don't.
Well, you won't allow me to. Why did you pull me over, sir? Well, you won't allow me to talk to you. Yes, he is allowing you to talk to you. He's listened to you this whole time. Your issue is you want him to roll the fucking window down and he doesn't have to. And you're saying that's not allowing him to talk to you. That's a false projection. Okay. Understand the language and understand the context of the stop, and why he's saying that is because he won't roll the window down. That is not cause to then bear false witness and say and project a lie that he is not allowing you to talk to him, when you've been talking to him this whole time about the issue of rolling the damn window down.
Don't worry about it.
Are you going to step out of the vehicle? Yes or no?
No, sir. You have not given me your name. You have not told me why you pulled me over. You have not given me a reason.
Okay, now I'm telling you to step out of the vehicle lawfully.
Okay, now I'm telling you to step out of the vehicle lawfully. Even though he's never given any cause or anything, he cannot do that. He hasn't proven why what cause for him to pull over. So it doesn't even make it to court. Well, it'll make it to court, but once it gets to court, if you give the proper rebuttal and a private response, you're not going to see a judge. And it can be that quick. You just have to understand how to state the truth and show the truth. How can he give me a lawful order when there's no cause, Your Honor? What was the cause for the stop? I asked him repeatedly. He kept trying to tell me in a lawful order way that I had to roll my window down, and there was no cause for that. What was his cause?
Lawfully. No, sir. Can you get somebody up here higher than you?
Like I said, I'm not going to talk to you through a crack.
Oh.
Step out of the vehicle so I can talk to you.
Are we not talking, sir?
Step out of the vehicle so I can talk to you. No, you don't have to have the window rolled all the way down in order to talk to him. You've proven that point right now because you're still talking to him. You hear what he's saying, and he hears what you're saying. You're having a conversation back and forth. And if this is the kind of stuff you're going to back the blue until it happens to you, it's only going to happen to you because you don't see it too. This is what I find insane.
I want to talk to you, be able to identify you who you are.
You haven't even asked me for an ID. What do you mean you're trying to identify me? Give me.
Damn it.
Rare photo.
This guy was driving perfectly.
Talk to you, be able to identify you who you are.
You haven't even asked me for an ID. What do you mean you're trying to identify me? Give me the law that says I have to roll down my window.
Do you hear what he just said?
For the safety reason, I want to talk to you, be able to identify you who you are.
You haven't even asked me for an ID. What do you mean you're trying to identify me?
For the safety reason, I want to talk to you, be able to identify you who you are.
You haven't even asked me for an ID. What do you mean you're trying to identify me?
For the safety reason, I want to talk to you, be able to identify you who you are.
You haven't even asked me for an ID. What do you mean you're trying to identify me? Give me the law that says I have to roll down my window. I'm not going to step out, sir.
Step out of the car.
We wait.
Step out of the car, okay?
Sir, both of my hands are right.
Absolutely. I hope he does well. I want to see if I can. This is Inspector Darkmind. He does a lot of videos on a lot of different people. So I don't know if I'll be able to find a update on him, but I'd like to find the update on that lawsuit because that was a perfect example of how insane and delusional these people think their authority goes. The guy literally babbled. The officer literally babbled the entire time. And people are willing to listen to it and say, yeah, I back the blue. I understand exactly what he's saying. You don't understand a fucking thing if you didn't see it right. There has to be a logic path. That's what law is all about. Due process. Funny thing, first law of logic is identity. So let's take a look at the next one. Stupid cop does the unthinkable for no reason and pays for it. Another Inspector Darkmind.
This guy got pulled over under suspicion of credit card fraud. So this cop rolled in hard, shouting orders at this guy, who was just peacefully complying to everything. But when the guy dared to ask for what he was being detained, all hell broke loose.
Step out now. Put it in the car. Put your hands right there. You got any guns? No. Put your hands on the car. For what? I'm in a police car. You're trying to get away from me.
I'm in a police car and you're trying to get away from me. He didn't try to get away at all. As soon as they pulled him over, he pulled over. So again, a false projection. That's bearing false witness right on the record. That's how they do it in real time. Stop resisting. That's false projection.
You didn't see that police car behind you? If you would listen, none of this would be going on. Okay. No, it's not okay. Why you got handcuffs? Why do you have handcuffs?
Right there, they snapped his arms. Okay. They got all escalated because they asked him why he has handcuffs. And he said, because I'm kinky.
Why you got handcuffs? Why do you have handcuffs? What? You gotta stay still, brother. Why you got handcuffs? Why do you have handcuffs? What? You gotta stay still, brother. Why you got handcuffs? Why do you have handcuffs? Because I'm dude. You gotta stay still, brother. If you don't stay still, I can't pat you down. Do you understand me? You have to be still, okay? If you move again, I have to do what I did before. No, you're not listening, brother. That's why you got put on the car like you did. You have to listen to everything that the police tell you, okay?
So the
No, you're not listening. The man listened the whole way. Did everything they asked him. So who are you going to listen to?
the guy sued. The charges against him got dropped. He got $30,000, and the crooked
$30,000 and the crooked cop got fired.
fired.
And that wasn't enough. But broke both his arms, folks. Wasn't enough. The next one is another disturbing one. Again, that false projection is a bearing of false witness. And they do it all the time. Just like the other day, we showed how they will do it after you die in an accident. And the rest of them will stand up and bear false witness for you, even though you can't. Let's check out the next one. Columbus police officer under investigation after high-speed crash.
New at 6, it's a WTVA News investigation. The Lowndes County Sheriff's Office has released its exhaustive, in-depth report of a high-speed crash involving a Columbus police officer. This is just part of that report. We want to warn you, though, the police body cam video that we're about to show you is raw, it is graphic, and intense. This is video from Patrol Officer Jeremy Harris's body camera. Captures the moment when Officer Harris hit a utility pole and flipped his police cruiser, traveling at speeds approaching 80 miles an hour. This happened July 16th in the heart of the city when Officer Harris was responding to a call for help at the jail. Officer Harris was hurt. So was the driver, the passenger in another car who happened to be at the intersection at the time of that fateful and violent collision. Officer Harris initially told investigators the driver of the other car pulled out in front of him and blamed that civilian for the crash. The WTVA 9 News has the driver of the other car pulled out in front of him and blamed that civilian for the crash. Told investigators the driver of the other car pulled out in front of him and blamed that civilian for the crash. Told investigators the driver of the other car pulled out in front of him and blamed that civilian for the crash. The WTVA 9 News has learned investigators have revised the report and now say that wasn't what happened. We spent hours reviewing the sheriff's 365-page report. Again, this is just part of it. We also reviewed body cam footage, and that's not all. We also learned this isn't Officer Harris's first time under investigation.
What? What? Isn't that a general theme too? This isn't the officer's first incident. This isn't the first time he's been investigated. It's happened several times.
Wednesday, July 16th, 2025, just before noon.
Okay, we're coming. 20 seconds college.
That was the moment when the lives of a Columbus police officer and a civilian driver were turned upside down. Columbus Patrol Officer Jeremy Harris was responding to a call for help at the Lowndes County Jail. Harris was running code, which means his lights and sirens were blaring when he lost control of his
Come on.
Harris was running code, which means his lights and sirens were blaring when he lost control of his cruiser while crossing the railroad tracks.
Okay, let's do this.
New at 6, it's a WTVA News investigation. The Lowndes County Sheriff's Office has released its exhaustive.
When he lost control of his code, which means his lights and sirens were blaring. Code, which
Okay. Want to show you something here.
Help the Lowndes siren.
You see the light or the railroad thing right there? That's a set of railroad tracks right there alongside this van. So he comes up on those railroad tracks, and it's just like a little speed bump. Watch what happens. This is where the accident occurs. Okay?
Were blaring.
Boom.
When he lost control of the cruiser while crossing the railroad tracks at the intersection of 22nd Street South, Jeremy Harris was responding to means his lights and sirens were blaring when he lost control of his cruiser.
When he lost control of his cruiser, when?
Means his lights and sirens were blaring when he lost control of his cruiser while crossing the railroad tracks, which means his lights and sirens were blaring when he lost control of his cruiser while crossing the railroad tracks at the intersection of 22nd Street South and College Street.
Take a breath. Take a breath. Take a breath.
Officer Harris hit a driver.
Ended up a full block later. It happened over here. He ended up a full block and then some past this intersection from that.
Who was stopped at that intersection, ran into a utility pole, and then flipped his cruiser. The Lowndes County Sheriff's Office was called to investigate.
26-year-old scene, correct?
Harris told investigators the car that was stopped at the intersection pulled out in front of him. He blamed that driver.
So he came in from this side over here, hit this car that was sitting at the stop sign, and then went off this way, flipped, and ended up top side here.
For the collision. Witnesses also initially told detectives the other driver failed to yield, but sheriff's investigators later determined Officer Harris
failed to yield. Notice he hit the stop sign here. The car was stopped at the stop sign. It wasn't moving.
Harris was at fault. The investigation also indicated Officer Harris was driving at speeds of up to 78 miles an hour at the time of the crash. The accident report and police narrative in the sheriff's office's 365-page report states Officer Harris's cruiser left its lane of travel and hit the other car. According to sheriff's detectives, Officer Harris caused the crash because he was driving too fast. The investigation also determined Officer Harris was not wearing his seatbelt at the time of the collision. Officer Harris was then sent to Baptist Memorial Hospital for a drug screening, but the sheriff's department.
Oh my. Somebody was actually going to do the right thing. But guess what happened?
Its report states Columbus police canceled the drug screening and told hospital staff police would do the test at the jail rather than at the ER.
Basically just shot out in front of him. I guess they thought they was going to beat me. Yeah.
The city of Columbus responded, claiming the ER staff member who typically collected urine samples for testing had passed away, and the staff was confused about what to do.
The one that typically does that. But just like at McDonald's, if the guy that's typically flipping the fucking hamburgers is gone, you replace him, right? I mean, isn't that a large portion of some of these hospitals' business is to do the drug screenings? Jesus fucking Christ, this is fucking insane.
Says the police department did not tell the hospital staff not to collect a urine sample. The city also stated the police department ordered Officer Harris to take a drug test when they discovered the failure. WTVA 9 News has also learned Jeremy Harris was charged with DUI first and speeding in a Mississippi Highway Patrol investigation in June 2024.
No way.
Harris's sentence in that case was non-adjudicated, meaning there was no conviction. Meanwhile, we asked...
No way. Come on. You mean it just fell dead in the record? It just fell dead in the record. Not adjudicated. No action. They just dropped the ball. Said, we won't. Yeah, I don't know. What are we going to do, folks? Back to blue until it happens to you.
The city of Columbus to comment on the sheriff's department's 365-page report. We wanted to know if Harris had been disciplined or if Harris was still employed as a police officer. We also wanted to know if the city was aware of Harris's DUI and speeding charges last summer and if Harris was employed as a police officer at the time of his arrest. Police.
Of course not. They don't know any of that. They didn't look at the record. And if they did, it's been manipulated, not for rehire, and then check mark interview for rehire. See, it doesn't matter to them. They've been in the abyss. And now they become the abyss.
Chief Joseph Daughtry sent us this statement. At this time, we're in the process of reviewing the files. This matter has developed into a personnel issue, and due to pending litigation, our city attorney has advised that we are unable to provide any further comment at this time. Thank you for your understanding.
The driver of the other car, Devian Bankhead, was cited for no license and insurance. Bankhead and a passenger were hospitalized. You can review the city of...
Oh, yeah, you got to put that in there at the end. She was cited for no license and no insurance. Interesting. Interesting. I would love to stand up and see that record. Because I guarantee you she wouldn't be qualified for either. So let's take a look at the next one. As 3 East Cleveland officers sentenced for crimes committed while on the job. While on the job. Isn't that about the only time they commit crimes? They got to get paid for it, right? Come on. Let's get real.
Former detective, sergeant, and commander in the embattled East Cleveland.
This company is going viral.
My apologies for the commercials. I'm not monetized and they fixed it yet, so deal with it.
Former detective, sergeant, and commander in the embattled East Cleveland Police Department will all trade badge numbers for inmate numbers.
A trio sentenced to prison today for crimes committed while on duty. News 5 investigator Scott Knoll has been following these problems in East Cleveland for years, and he was in the courtroom for you today. Joins us now here tonight in studio with the latest. Scott.
In all, prosecutors say the 3 officers played parts in 5 different incidents, all culminating in one day. Standing before a judge, the officers learning they'll be locked away like the criminals they spent their careers arresting. The painful cries of her son haunting to the teen's mother.
They still beat him with the handcuffs on and stumped him.
The 16-year-old kicked in the groin by this man, former East Cleveland police detective Ian McInnes, one of 3 cases where investigators say
16-year-old kicked in the groin. Isn't that child abuse, guys?
McInnes kicked a suspect who'd surrendered.
He was operating less as a police
16-year-old suspect
officer with an obligation to serve and protect, and more like a bully with a badge.
It's the kind of thing activists and parents of the victim.
Yeah, how much does it take to serve and protect the society at whole from a 16-year-old?
Victims told the judge they're sick of seeing in East Cleveland.
It's sad that we're living in this world, in this time, and our officers are doing these kind of things to people.
Pleas for justice not lost on Judge Sherry Madej.
The thousands of good people that live there deserve, expect, and under the law have a right to be served in a just way by the police. Thousands of good people that live there deserve, expect, and under the law have a right to be served in a just way by the police. The thousands of good people that live there deserve, expect, and under the law have a right to be served in a just way by the police.
The judge.
Public service is a public trust, folks, and they are obligated as trustees to the obligee, which is yourself as people, the benefactors that give to the beneficiary.
Sentencing McInnes to 2.5 years in prison for attempted
2.5 years in prison,
felonious assault, and other crimes. Sergeant Anthony Holmes will spend 1 year locked up after investigators say he rammed the 16-year-old's car, then lied and said the teen hit him. Holmes also involved in another case involving former police commander Larry McDonald. Investigators say McDonald lied about his involvement in 2 separate police chases. Both ended in crashes. One was deadly. The highest ranking of the 3 officers in court, McDonald receiving the longest sentence, 4 years in prison.
One of them deadly. This is the guy that had 3 incidences. Then the other 2 each had the 1. Four years. A life for 4 years. A life and then some, of course, 3 incidences. And that's all that was reported.
Madej tying the danger in East Cleveland to poor policing.
These children growing up in East Cleveland deserve to have role models. And in a lot of communities, the role models are the police officers. And they are the people that we tell our children to go to for help. These kids are afraid of the police officers in East Cleveland. The role models are the police officers. And they are the people that we tell our children to go to for help. These kids are afraid of the police officers in East Cleveland. And in a lot of communities, the role models are the police officers. And they are the people that we tell our children to go to for help. These kids are afraid of the police officers in East Cleveland.
along with prison time, because all 3 men are now convicted felons. Each forfeits his license to be a police officer. Omni's 5.
I don't give a fuck about his license. I'm sickened that he got such little time. So let's talk about the death squad. I don't know if you guys remember the death squad, but let's take a peek at some recent news of 10 corrections officers indicted in death of mid-state correctional inmate.
Disturbing and graphic details have been released in how mid-state correctional inmate Messiah Nantwi.
Imagine being.
My apologies again for the commercials. I will fix it soon. In the meantime,
44,
thanks for putting up with it.
Complete
Nantwi died on March 1st. This as 10 corrections officers from both mid-state and Marcy correctional facilities are indicted and face a judge in Oneida County Court for the first time. It is your top story tonight. First, let's break down the top charges for each defendant. Charged with murder, manslaughter, gang assault, and more are Kayla Blair and Jonah Levi. Manslaughter, gang assault, conspiracy, and more, Thomas Eck, Craig Klemick, Daniel Berger, Francis Chandler, and David Ferrone. Charged with conspiracy, Nicholas Vitale. Tampering with physical evidence, Daniel Slauson. And offering a false instrument for filing, Michael Evert. News Channel 2's Jolene Ferris was in court for today's proceedings. She has the graphic details from the indictment, how Messiah Nantwi died, and how some of the corrections officers charged in his death are accused of trying to cover it up.
All manipulating the record to cover their crimes up. And that is their crimes. It's always been plural. This is not incidental. This is not one-off shit. What do you want to be when you grow up? Well, I want to be a police officer. No, you don't.
The ones who used to hold the keys wore the cuffs into Oneida County Court Wednesday, charged with crimes ranging from manslaughter and murder.
Not an intentional murder, but a murder so depraved and so wanton and disregarding of human life that New York law allows it to rise to the level of intentional murder.
To gang assault and conspiracy.
On the following morning, at a diner called Raspberries in Oneida County, all of the co-conspirators met and agreed to continue with the story that everything they did was completely proper.
The special prosecutor says 10:55 a.m. March 1st, Mid-State Correctional Facility inmate Messiah Nantwi was fine, and by 10:58, a radio call was made for backup and a CERT team response. Special facility inmate Messiah Nantwi.
Now look at this guy. I mean, you can see from the portion of the picture that we have that this kid, this kid has no build. He's a very young man, if at all a man. What is it that it would take 10 men to want to kill this man, to kill this boy, to extinguish a living soul?
Was fine, and by 10:58, a radio call was made for backup and a CERT team response. Special prosecutor Bill Fitzpatrick says the grand jury in this case suggests it's something that spiraled out of control unnecessarily.
The alleged contact that began between the National Guard and Mr. Nantwi had to do with Mr. Nantwi interjecting himself in another incarcerated individual's effort to obtain medication.
Some of the 10 officers charged in Mid-State Correctional Facility inmate Messiah Nantwi's death are accused of beating him with their fists, boots, and batons in the head, delivering 69 blows to his body alone, continuing the assault in a stairwell on the way to the infirmary, and dumping the 22-year-old in a holding cell in the infirmary, and continuing the assault there with a conscious effort to cover it up. Beating him with their fists, boots, and batons in the head. Inmate Messiah Nantwi's death are accused of beating him with their fists, boots, and batons in the head, delivering 69 blows to his body alone, continuing the assault in a stairwell on the way to the infirmary, and dumping the 22-year-old in a holding cell in the infirmary, and continuing the assault there with a conscious effort to cover it up. Inmate Messiah Nantwi's death are accused of beating him with their fists, boots, and batons in the head, delivering 69 blows to his body alone, continuing the assault in a stairwell on the way to the infirmary, and dumping the 22-year-old in a holding cell in the infirmary, and continuing the assault there with a conscious effort to cover it up.
Fragments of Mr. Nantwi's entrance into the infirmary are captured on one corrections officer's body-worn camera. It is not a continuing flow, but there are enough indications to name and identify the individuals involved and some of the things that occurred. Many other corrections officers, apparently intentionally, either turned off their cameras, placed them in an area of concealment, or simply looked the other way.
After the deadly assault, Fitzpatrick says, came a plot to plant a weapon, a plot that was caught on tape.
A body-worn camera intentionally hung in a men's room at the infirmary of Midstate, caught two of the co-conspirators discussing the conspiracy to plant the weapon, again, posthumously on Mr. Nantwey.
From the State Corrections Commissioner in Utica today, acknowledgement and a promise to do better.
The people entrusted to our care deserve better than this. We hired external law firms to conduct a full review of the system, which is currently underway.
Not in court today, 6 others who are cooperating with the special prosecutor, 2 of whom are pleading guilty to felonies, 4 to misdemeanors. The 10 officers in court today are due back in Oneida County Court through May to report.
So you have 10 officers and then 4 other authority figures involved outside of the police department.
Hired external law firms to conduct a full review of the system, which is currently underway.
Not in court today, 6 others who are cooperating with the special
6.
prosecutor, 2 of whom are pleading guilty to felonies, 4 to misdemeanors. The 10 officers in court today are
law firms
6
to conduct
others.
a full review of the system, which is currently underway.
Not in court today, 6 others who are cooperating with the special prosecutor, 2 of whom are pleading guilty to felonies, 4 to misdemeanors. The 10 officers in court.
So I imagine that would be like medical staff and stuff, or other staff within the department along the way, you know, the guy monitoring the video, things like that. I don't know. We would have to find out, but again, certainly more than just the 10, right? So it's not just the police, it's those that involve themselves with the police, and you see how the abyss spreads. Again, I see Hitler's willing executioners, but it plays out well in Nietzsche's explanation of looking into the abyss too long, and the abyss will look into you. So here's the result.
The first of 10 officers charged in the beating death of Robert Brooks at Marcy.
And this is in relation to the previous video. That's the inmate that they beat was Robert Brooks.
Correctional last December is now off to prison. Christopher Walworth in Oneida County Court today to learn his sentence. News Channel 9's Jeremy Skiba takes us inside the emotional courtroom.
Christopher Walrath was the first of the former Marcy Correction officers to plead guilty in the beating death of Robert Brooks back in May. Now he's the first former guard to face prison time.
Defendant is hereby sentenced to a determinate sentence of 15 years in state prison, that is along with 5 years of post-release supervision.
The special prosecutor on a...
So again, as I mentioned, the stature of the young man that they killed, the kid that they killed, the boy that they killed. And look at this man. That's just one of them. This is just one of them. And they all tend to try to get that same stature. They all tend to be taller, very built men, a lot of weight to push around when they need to or when they just want to.
Onondaga County District Attorney Bill Fitzpatrick said he was willing to dismiss a murder charge because he said, quote, "I don't believe Walrath's blows were independently fatal."
I wanted to get to the...
I don't believe Walworth's blows were independently the singular thing that killed him. So we're not going to charge him with murder. So since you can't pin it down to just one punch, you're not going to hold any of them accountable to murder, huh? You see what happens there? Isn't that the skewing of information? I believe that if I was caught in a chase with the police and my companion was in the car with me and I somehow got into an accident and killed my companion, in that accident, they would charge me with murder. This is the ridiculous stuff because they can't pin it down to just one. Then where is the justice? See, wouldn't you normally pin it down to all of them? Isn't that what you do when you find a gang and you arrest a bunch of them? You try to charge them all with the same charge? Murder?
Why? What did Robert do to provoke this? 8 months later and hundreds of investigative hours later, I can answer that question as to what Robert Brooks did to provoke his death. Absolutely nothing.
Before Walrath heard his sentence,
Robert Brooks did to provoke his death. Robert Brooks did to provoke his death. Absolutely nothing.
Before Walrath heard his sentence, he in the courtroom heard from Robert Brooks Jr.
I want you to imagine watching someone beating your own father helpless, restrained, bloody. I want you to imagine watching your own father be hit with a 50 boot or being dragged by his neck.
Brooks Jr. says he was awaiting his father's release, which was supposed to be next July.
You took that away from us. Although I can never forgive you, I respect that you admitted what you did and accept the responsibility. And I hope that others have the courage to do the same. That goes beyond what happens in any courtroom.
Brooks Jr. ending on a reminder that Walrath is now part of the state prison system.
You are no longer acting within the system. Now, your life is at the mercy of it. And I pray for your family who's going to have to spend the next 15 years worrying about you, just like all New Yorkers with incarcerated loved ones must do.
Judge Robert Bauer asked Walrath if he wanted to say anything, and Walrath declined. In Utica, Jeremy Skiba, News Channel 9.
Yeah, he would decline. I can imagine. So when it comes to all this, what I'm pointing out, folks, is it's time to start educating yourself and learning how to speak up, learn how to stand up and voice your concerns with authority and without faltering, letting them know you mean business and you're not going to take their lies anymore. That's what our next one's about. We've got issuing a revised demand to city after dismissal of charges. I think the guy spoke very well, had a certain diplomacy about him. And we're going to start at the 110-minute mark. Everything else was just introduction to the city council. And here we see a gentleman coming up, and watch what he does. He's giving them notice, okay? I don't know that I would do this in a public venue, and that's my only qualm with it. I would come to a public meeting to address the fact that I gave them notice, if they ignore that notice, and therefore make it a public venue. This is Matthew 18, verses 15 through 20, in case you want to know. It's a process of giving that notice when you have aught with your brother. If you take it to him in private first, and he hears you, then you've gained your brother. If he doesn't, then you take it to a second witness. Your second witness is the other people. Then if he doesn't hear that, then you take it to the church, which is all people, not just your local community. It's reaching beyond your local community, which the city has no power when it comes to the state enforcement. That's where you have the power to understand the duality of that personhood and what it means, and not complying with the terms of resident United States citizen, and being able to assert your land authority, a civilian authority, as a living soul, just sanguine and just soli, of the land and of the blood.
Good evening. My name is Andrew Martin. I live at 1605 Willow Road here in Pryor. And first, I'm here to deliver a revised legal demand to the city of Pryor, the mayor, the clerk, and the council members. This document updates my original submitted demand from April 4th and includes new evidence of falsified police reports, retaliatory enforcement, and repeated civil rights violations. This is not a new complaint. It's a formal escalation that puts the city and its insurance provider on notice. And I strongly encourage this council to take it seriously. Also handed each of you a formal public
Insurance. The city council and insurance on notice. Not the court, not the judiciary. See, it's already set in bounds. It's already set in bonds. They're already bound to their binding obligations. Public service is a public trust.
request for disclosure, asking for a simple update before you go behind closed doors tonight to discuss the fraternal order of police.
And remember, he was talking about corruption and bearing false witness. The police officers and they're lying in their reports. It's systemic.
Negotiations. I'm not asking for secrets, just a good faith summary of the people you represent. You're about to discuss union contracts, raises, off-duty vehicle policies, and another round of police and dispatcher hiring approvals. Meanwhile, the city has invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into surveillance systems, facial recognition, license plate scanners, while quietly stockpiling bullets and body armor like it's preparing for a military engagement, not serving a civilian population. We've got one of the highest paid police forces in Oklahoma.
They're wanting all those nice toys, okay? Nice toys so they can protect themselves, not you.
Yet they've been operating without a contract for months, receiving almost no scrutiny on pending hiring or spending.
Operating without a contract. Okay, understand what the man said, and he's making a very valid point here.
Not serving a civilian population. We've got one of the highest paid police forces in Oklahoma, yet they've been operating without a contract for months. We've got one of the highest paid police forces in Oklahoma, yet they've been operating without a contract for months. One of the highest paid police forces in Oklahoma, yet they've been operating without a contract for months, receiving almost no scrutiny on pending hiring or spending hiring or conduct. Worse, I found no indication that this department requires, let alone provides, constitutional training, real de-escalation training, or even the basic reading of the rights they swear to uphold. I have evidence to back all of that up. They will show up for pay, they will show up for tactical training, but they will not show up to learn how to honor the Constitution. Now let's be honest about what's holding up these contracts, because no one's saying it. The union is stalling and the city's playing along. Why? What are they asking for that's so difficult to just say no? Probably can't afford to keep negotiating with people who show up for armor and overtime, but skip training on the rights they swear to defend. So I'm here primarily to deliver that.
And on that point, I want to make sure that you're seeing what I see, is that if there's no contract, yet they're in negotiations and they're still on the clock, then what are the negotiations about? Because they're still sticking to the terms of the previous contract if they're negotiating. So again, I wonder if it's not some kind of, like I mentioned in the beginning videos, some kind of policy change to try to skirt around and create some kind of loophole somewhere as it relates to these contracts. And that's always what they're doing, folks. Creating loopholes so they can just keep on doing what they need to do to keep expanding the government. That's why it's so important for you to start standing up and be your own government. Govern your own mentality instead of being a bitch-ass slave and just believing in a false patriarch, presenting a bearing of a false witness in its entire record.
That letter. I'm also speaking up for citizens, and we don't need more officers with bigger guns. We need fewer excuses and more accountability. Thank you. To defend. So I'm here primarily to deliver that letter. I'm also speaking up for citizens, and we don't need more officers with bigger guns. We need fewer excuses and more accountability. To defend. So I'm here primarily to deliver that letter. I'm also speaking up for citizens, and we don't need more officers with bigger guns. We need fewer excuses and more accountability. Thank you.
And I absolutely agree. We don't need to escalate the size and power of a weapon and authority. We need more responsibility and accountability in the integrity and accountability. That's inherently what our own nature should be, but we've been taught to chase this bag and go after this materialistic world, and that we can somehow get away with sitting on that couch and watching the boob tube of somebody else's wonderful life because ours is so great, because all of our protections are afforded. No one's learning how to stand up and protect themselves. And on that note, we come to the final. It's a short to show you again, when they try to quash something that's truly in your heart, the people will eventually stand up. So when they try to de-escalate something that is inherent and can't be done, life can't be done without it, people are inherently going to speak out then. But again, it's only when it happens to you. In this here, it was a great example. It happened to a whole group. They decided, well, we're just going to change things as how we do them in a sporting arena and just ignore patriotism. Watch what happened. Announcer, we will not be playing the national anthem. Play ball. What do you think happens, folks? What do you think happens? No anthem at a baseball game.
Not be playing the national anthem. Let's play ball.
Absolutely, right? Absolutely. They tell you we're not going to do it, but it sits in your heart. You do it anyway. You do it anyway. What happened when they told you you couldn't discipline your children? What happened when they told you you couldn't teach your children? What happened when they told you you needed a social security number and a driver's license to get a job, or a state ID to get a job? Were you indoctrinated to be employed for or by a false patriarch instead of doing the work of the true patriarch, doing what is good despite all else? Did you lose your sense of what is good due to comforts and convenience, believing that's better? What happened to your value system? What happened to your integrity? You do realize that's what you gave up. One of the things you give up when you start handing your responsibility over to other people is you give up your own integrity. It's like I say, when you hire an attorney, it proves you're incompetent. If you hire a roofer, it proves you're incompetent to put on your own roof. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. There are a lot of things I'm incompetent at. But there are certain things that we should all be competent at. One of those, as it relates to the story of give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. But if you teach him to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. And the base principle there is not that he just feeds himself, but that he too now can give other people a fish to feed them for a day and teach others how to fish. This is where you take the surplus of your knowledge. When you do fish and you catch in abundance, you have enough that you can give away. We don't have much of that anymore because everybody's already given everything away that would be teaching them how to do for themselves. They'd rather have somebody else do it for them. How much in your life are you going to give up when it comes to these plenary powers and being able to do your reading, writing, and arithmetic for yourself, as in the capacity of an accountant, to determine your own legal issues by seeking the proper counsel in truth, in accordance to your own life, rather than some policy that refers to personhood and this commercial venue and how it's bonded now, and you don't even recognize it's a contract. It's much like giving an oath to them. It's the same thing as serving two masters. You can't. You're going to love one and despise the other. So when you serve the false patriarch that's telling you you have to send your kids to a public education system and get them into the Medicare healthcare programs and make sure you have some kind of insurance program in case you hurt them in your child abuse, because you can't discipline them. So if you do, it's child abuse. So we have to get them to a medical expert and have them examine. It's fucking insane. Don't you see it? Where's your integrity to bring your children up in your ways, even if they aren't necessarily the ways of the Lord? First thing you should realize that if you're letting your children be brought up in the ways of another, what are you teaching them? What legacy are you going to give to them? They're going to say, well, I didn't learn shit from my dad. I had to go to school. It's one of the things I do have a gratitude for my adoptive parents. They did quite a bit of homeschooling. So I had both worlds there. I couldn't say it was the best because they were kind of busy with their corporate federal government work. But still, it was constantly paying attention to me and my education at home with involvement with them as well. That was part of the indoctrination, though. All that materialistic stuff. Chasing the bag, staying up with the Joneses. All the statistics that say, hey, this is a better value here. Again, what's your value system if you have no integrity yourself? How much can you protect yourself if you're dependent on somebody else to do it for you? How are you going to escalate? How are you going to ascend to something greater if you keep holding yourself down? Because that's what you're doing. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, and you're the one that just doesn't want to know. And with that, you guys know me. I love you, but I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back. That's to say, I don't care if you hate me. I don't care if you don't respect me. That part's on you. So may your God bless you and love you. And we'll see you again next time. Bye now.